it's Ryan from the Game Jar here. I'm here with Christian. He's the gameplay director of Hitman Absolution. How are you doing, Christian?
How are you doing? I'm just fine.
Fantastic. So what are you showing here so far on the great game floor at Gamescom?
Well, what we're showing this time is actually the new online mode for Hitman Absolution called Contracts. And in this mode you are basically able to revisit any part of the game. And this time it's with alternate hits. Any person in the game world can be hit. And the beautiful thing about it is that it's actually something that all players can do. We've invented a mode called Play to Create, which basically allows you to go in, mark a person as a target, and then eliminate him and escape. And when you do that, you're actually shaping a contract that you can share with other players.
Considering it's been about 5 years since the last Hitman game, from the gameplay footage we've seen, a lot's changed in the kind of, it's not as, well, it's still methodical, but it's a lot more action-packed. Can you explain how you're going to try and keep hold of the people who used to play it 5 years ago compared to trying to get a new demographic into playing Hitman games?
Well, it's actually very simple. When we showed some of the latest levels, we've shown the Streets of Hope, for instance, from South Dakota, where you have to do this triple hit in a small lazy town in the middle of nowhere. That's very much showing what a lot of our core fans really like about the game. This, you're in a town. No one is actually, you're allowed to go wherever you want. And what you're doing is you're kind of probing around, trying to figure out how to perform the hits. And you can do this completely silent, like a silent assassin, or you can obviously be more violent. And that way, I don't really think we've changed the formula of the franchise very much. The only thing we've done is actually just add more nuance. So let's say that you're spotted in the game. Well, now it's not an instant failure. Probably some guy will try to arrest you, but you can deal with that. You can fake surrender to eliminate him. Or, knowledge about what happened spreads organically. So it's not everyone who knows what you did. It's only a few guys, and if you can manage to contain it, that will, fall back to an ambient state, and you're good to go. And that's one part of it. The other part of it is also saying that if you get into combat, well, then we want the AI to be able to handle that. The AI obviously being the artificial intelligence driving all the characters. And they need to be tactical and strategical, which they weren't that good at in the old games. And obviously when you shoot weapons, you need to be good at that as well. So in that sense, you can say that it's action-oriented, but it's only if you choose to be action-oriented. And in that case, it's just a matter of really feeling that you are a powerful agent and that you can actually use your weapon as you would expect to be able to use them.
So basically, you can play it kind of almost exactly the same as the older games, but also you've added in just a lot more action.
Definitely. I mean, again, when we showed King of Chinatown, where you have this, I think this target in the middle of, we're actually looking at it right here, you have the target in the middle of the pagoda. He's in a very public place. You can bring out your guns and shoot him. You can blow him up with the explosives. But I mean, still, one of the best silent assassin kills is actually to find the poisonous fugu fish, and then slip it in his drink, his coffee, dressed as a street vendor, and then just escape without anyone ever knowing you're there. No bloodshed, no nothing. It's just a clean kill.
I've noticed looking at that, there's a whole bunch of people on screen at one time. I mean, how do you manage the kind of panic situations? If you fired your gun right now, I mean, how would that work with on screen? Would everyone just go completely crazy? Or, I mean, that must have been so hard to manage.
Well, I think that's one of the points of building a new engine, the Glazer 2 engine for the game, is that we allowed ourselves to really rethink some of the elements we had. So crowds in the previous games were more like a dressing or set dressing of the levels. In this case, it's actually a real gameplay element. They will obviously panic in a fairly realistic manner, right? Running for the exits. Police will start attacking you. A SWAT team will arrive to kind of battle you, which is also something we couldn't do before. If you pull out your guns, they will actually start backing away from you like you would expect. It's not you're not flipping a switch, but eventually they'll panic because there's a crazy gunman. And all of that is something you can kind of toy around with in the game. It's dealing with what happens basically.
You tried to do something a bit different with when you released the Sniper Challenge, kind of pre-DLC. Yes. Now I played it, I found it quite fun. Obviously it went very, very quickly because it was more just a challenge, point-based orientated thing. How successful do you think that was as a kind of pre-marketable amble into just, well, I've never seen it before. I mean,
well, we knew we wanted to do something very ambitious, and there's no doubt we've gotten feedback that this is probably one of the most ambitious pre-orders in recent history, I think, or in the history of gaming almost. What we really liked about it from a gameplay perspective is that if you are introducing people to what is actually at the core of a Hitman game, it is that, it's in one way it's very easy to understand. You're on a roof, you have a sniper scope, you kill your targets. But if you start looking beneath the surface and understand what it means to be a silent assassin, what it means to shoot people into the pool or open the elevators and punch the guy in there with your bullets, there's a lot of creative ways of going about this. And that means that you can, increase your score by being completely unnoticed, eliminating 15 guys who never even discovered that the other guys went missing, and then maximizing that. And in a way, that's introducing maybe someone who never knew about Hitman to what the more clever aspects of what it feels to be 47. People, when they first see it, they go like, hey, I'm just shooting people on a roof. And then you understand it, all of a sudden that, hey, I can actually replay this and replay this and replay this, improving your kill streaks. And another thing that we're also doing in Absolution is that you have challenges in the Sniper Challenge. So if you do something in a special way, it will unlock a challenge. And that challenge will grant you a permanent score bonus. And that's the same thing in Hitman Absolution in the story mode, that if you complete the challenges on the level, for instance the king here, there are 12 different ways of killing him, and each time you find a new way, we will permanently increase your score for that checkpoint. So that's something that worked very well in the Sniper Challenge, that also works well in Absolution.
Speaking about multiple ways how to kill people, what's your personal favourite death which you can do on Hitman Absolution?
Well, I actually mentioned one of them, and that is actually the King of Chinatown. I think there's a certain kind of very Agent 47-like beauty in leaving the guy. You're walking out as a street vendor, right? And then you have the king. He just looked like he fell asleep after reading the newspaper or something. And obviously he's dead, and no one will ever know that it was Hitman and that it was there in the first place.
Can you explain any other kind of just good deaths that we may see, perhaps?
Well, definitely. I'm. Again, King of Chinatown provided me with one I didn't actually anticipate when obviously we've been playing all the levels a lot, but I knew that the king, he has a drug dealer association, and he goes to the apartment to kind of test out the goods. So I found some remote explosives in the level. I won't give away where they're located. Then I managed to sneak up there and plant them under the table where they're actually doing their deal. And then in instinct mode, I could actually stand down there in the crowd and look up and see, okay, now they're actually there. I pressed the button, and obviously they blew up, and I fulfilled my objective. What I hadn't anticipated is that the drug dealer got lifted by the force of the explosion out through the window and down into the crowd, causing obviously quite a panic. But on the other hand, no one knew that I did it, so I could calmly walk through all the fuss and exit the level.
With the instinct mode, obviously that's a whole new thing. Do you reckon? Well, I mean, it's a bit almost like, I don't want to say it, but almost Splinter Cell-esque kind of move. Do you reckon that was you needed to push the game in that direction to make it more action-orientated, or do you reckon core fans may choose not to use it?
Well, it's obviously something you can choose to use or not use in the game. But what we really wanted to do with Absolution was actually to make, how to put it, the training that Agent 47 has undergone, we wanted to put it into the game world. We didn't want it on a map where we had it previously, where you could actually see much of the same things. We wanted it inside the world where you're making your kind of split-second decisions. And that's why we came up with Instinct. And the feedback we've been getting also from a lot of our hardcore fans who are in I.O. playing the game, obviously in all our tests, is actually that they really, really like it. There are very few skeptics coming out of a play session.
Fantastic. Well, Christian, thanks for talking to us. Ryan from the Game Jar, Christian of